Hello everyone. The topic for the day is Introduction to OD. Organizational development is what we will be discussing in this presentation. So, before we begin with the organizational development as an understanding, how does this scheme of things came to existence and what are the various authors and management thinkers have propounded about organization development? Let us understand, try to comprehend what they have stated around here in the initial 2 3 slides. We are incorporating a change in an organization through the utilization of behavioral science, technology, research. But in French definition, it says it's a long time effort to eliminate organizational problems. How do we do it? With the ability to incorporate the changes in external environment, the capacity to mitigate it with the external or internal behavioral scientist or consultant, as we talk about it. So we need to bring a change in ourselves with, so that there is any external outcome that needs to be taken care of. That is what French definition of OD is all about. It is always a long term perspective of improving the problem solving capability. Definition altogether, this is what I have found out for my audiences around here. It's a system wide application and transfer of behavioral science knowledge to the plan development, improvement, and reinforcement of strategies, structures, processes that leads to overall organizational effectiveness. I have amalgamated Burke's, French, Beers, and Becker's definition altogether so that it culminates to the better understanding of the audience of this particular video, right? The system-wide application and transfer of behavioral science knowledge to the plan development, improvement, and reinforcement of strategies, structures, processes that leads to organizational effectiveness. So, what exactly is agenda? Agenda is organizational development. Yes, it is the meaning and definition of organizational development, the objectives of organizational development, the assumption that we'll talk about it, the process thereof, and overall effectiveness. So, we will try to analyze each of the headings in this particular presentation as far as OD is concerned: the meaning, the definition, the objective, the assumption, the values, the process, the effectiveness. So let us begin with the introduction. It's a term which was coined by Richard Beckard, right, in 1950s, almost 1954, if I may say so. Organizational development is an acronym of two words, that is organization and development. We need to understand this thing all together. Introduction to organization by Richard Beckard is what is very important, that is to be understood. Amalgamation of two words, organization and development. Organization symbolizes a social unit of people that is structured and managed to meet a need and to pursue collective goals. Whereas development is a systematic use of scientific and technical know-how for to meet a specific objectives of requirement. That is what we are looking into it. So that is it. Let us understand organization development in depth. It's a deliberately planned effort to increase the viability and relevance of the organization. Remember, organization development is a deliberate planned effort to increase organization relevance and viability. Organization development is a framework for change, and oftentimes a manager's change. So, making of an OD, organization development is known as both a field of applied behavioral science and managing organizational change. So this is what we are looking into. Is it's a behavioral science we look into it. We are focused on understanding the effectiveness in the organizational changes, how it can be implemented as a field of scientific study and inquiry. OD is a systematic learning and development strategy intended to change the basic of beliefs, attitude, and relevance of value and structures of the current organizations to better absorb disruptive technology, market opportunities, and ensuing challenges thereby. So, definition of OD is according to Middle Mist and HIT. It defines organization development as a systematic means for planned change that involves the entirety of the organization and is intended to increase the organization effectiveness. This is what we are looking at into it. We need to understand the theory about the definitions as far as middle mist and head is concerned. It is a systematic means of plan change. Remember, across the organization, intended to make an organization completely effective, more effective as far as possible. So Cumming and Hughes define OD as a system-wide application of behavioral science knowledge to the plan development and reinforcement of organizational strategies, structures, process for improving an organization. So similarly, Bennis W defines OD is a response to a change, a complex education strategy intent to change beliefs, attitudes, values, and structure of organizations so that they can adapt better to a new technologies, markets, and challenges the dizzying rate of change itself. Absolutely dynamic thing that comes around it. Cummings and Wally define its organization development as a system-wide application of behavioral science knowledge to the planned development and reinforcement of organizational strategies, structures, processes for improving organizational effectiveness. Let us understand the objectives of OD. What are they? What are the essential elements that comes across as the goals of ODs are all about it? First and the foremost thing is to increase the level of interpersonal trust among the employees, to enhance employee levels of satisfaction and commitment, to confront the problem instead of neglecting them, is instead of dusting them beneath the carpets, confront it and take it on a head-on basis to effectively manage change, to increase cooperation among the employees, to increase the organization problem solving cases, and to put in places that will help improve the ongoing operation of the organization on a continuous basis comes around it. It's on a continuous basis. These are the prime objectives, values that comes around as far as the organization is concerned. The values say the way of the groups are linked influences their effectiveness. Change should start from the top and gradually be introduced to the rest of the organization. This is what we are looking into it. The group links the top and the bottom simultaneously. This is very, very important as things are standing. So growth and relevance, there are three basic trends that are shaping ODs on a dynamic environment that is present out here. One is globalization, the next one is information technology, and the last one would be a managerial innovations. What are they? Globalization in ITs or information technology and the managerial innovation that around it. So we'll talk about the growth and relevance as far as globalization is concerned. Remember, market is changing, the world is becoming smaller, everything which is happening at one corner of the earth is impacting at a different parts of the earth altogether. So what are we looking at? We are getting increasingly connected, we are getting increasingly impacted, we are getting increasingly coordinated. So a changed markets and the environment in which organization operates as well as it functions. New government, new leadership, new market, new countries are emerging and creating a new global economy with the opportunity threats. Let us understand what is information technology. The way an organization collects, stores, manipulates, use, transmits what? Data. What the data signifies? Information. What the information signifies? The decision making ability. So IT is a lot thing that cannot be encompassed into one particular holistic platform altogether. It's always evolving. Managerial innovation is something similar to it. It is always a strategic HRM. The organizational design gets changed. The proactivity, the customer focus, the sensitivity is different from different organization. There is a vast difference between organizational learning and learning organization. So that is what we need to understand altogether. So process of OD is what we are looking at it. Remember, this is the flow that comes around it from the point that problem identification has been taking place. This is a normal OD process that I'm talking around here. It is always, remember, OD is always a planned approach to improve productivity of the organization, effectiveness of the employees, efficiency of the process. That is what we are looking at onto it. Any problem identification, please understand, if there are any, needs to be supported by relevant data that needs to be collected. Once those data has been collected, now you come to the solution part of it, as in looking for the diagnostic effort. Therein, once the problem has been identified, the solution has been demarcated, we need to implement it, and that is what planning and implementation process is all about. It once implemented, it will give us a perfect picture as how good, bad, ugly we have done as far as the process of concerned. Remember, the first step in OD is all about problem identification, involves understanding, identification, and existing the potential problems in an organization. The awareness of the problem includes knowledge of the possible organization problem, of the growth, human satisfaction, the usage of HR, and the organization effectiveness thereby. In terms of data collection, having to understand the exact problem in this phase, the relevant data has to be accumulated. How do you do it? Through personal interviews. How do you do it? Through observation. How do you do it? Through questionnaires. This is data collection. This is a first hand information that you take. Now, then comes the diagnosis part. Now, what is diagnosis is of the current situation. Usually, it should not be limited to a single problem, rather, a multiple number of factors like attitudes has to be taken place, assumption, available resources, and management practices are taken into account in this particular phase. Remember, there are basically four steps to organizational diagnosis. First, remember, is the structural analysis. Now, what is a structural analysis? How different parts of the organization are functioning in a laid goals. The second part is a process analysis. First being structural, second being process, third being functional, and the last would be a domain analysis. Now, process analysis in which an event take place in a sequence. It refers to a pattern of decision making, communication, group dynamics, and conflict management patterns within the organization. Let us understand the functional analysis. This includes the strategic variables, the performance variables, the result achievements, the final outcomes that is there, present, ever present out there. Every functional thing needs to be understood individually. Therein comes the domain. Now, this is where you will have to understand that one particular vertical might not be able to implement certain aspects, or there are impediments to its operation. This is what the domain refers to as an area of an organization for organizational diagnosis. First, planning and implementing. After diagnosing the problem, the next phase of the OD is with an OD interventions or the solution that you want to implement as it. Then comes the evaluation and the feedback. As in every OD activity, after the culmination of the diagnosis, executions, implementation, you should always have a feedback as to the outcomes have been done, how it has been perceived, or should I say received by the client groups by means of specific interactions and report. So this is what we are looking from. Let us understand the effectiveness of OD. So humanistic value underlines OD altogether. Now Margulis and Rela articulated the humanistic values of ODs as follows. First, in providing opportunities for people to function as human beings rather than as a resource that comes around it in productive process. Next is providing opportunities for each organization member as well of an organization itself to develop its full potential. This is what we are looking at it. What is it? Seeking to increase the effectiveness of organization in terms of all of its goals. Remember what we are looking into to increase the effectiveness of organization in terms of all of its goals. Next is attempting to create an environment in which it is possible to find exciting and challenging work. Now, this is what is keeping the people interested, the employee hung around among the job prospect altogether, providing opportunities for people in organizations to influence the way in which they relate to the work, the organization, and the environment, treating each human being as a person with a complex set of needs, all of which are important in his or her work life. This is what we are looking into it. Yes, yes, this is what we need to understand as far as the effectiveness of OD is concerned. It is making people as with work with their dignity intact, with their respect intact. In fact, should I say, they feel a sense of belongingness towards the organization together. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching this video.